Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it Voluntary and Involuntary Reaction. It's based on a question somebody asked me, and the question is: Hi Nick, in a video you talk about the mirror we are, where everything is reflected, and if you react to what you like or dislike, you are already separate. Okay, that's easy to see, but sometimes the reaction arises because it has to. So, what's the fine line where one reacts or life reacts through us or through them? For me, this is the difficult part because if it were simply a matter of letting life do everything, I would not feel guilty afterward. But since I don't know who's reacting, life or me, and we're told not to react, it's almost inevitable to feel guilty afterward, thinking, did I do it? Could I have done better? Did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? I don't know if I'm explaining myself well or if I am getting a bit confused. I think you get the idea. Thanks. Okay, well, here's the answer that I share in writing, and then we'll elaborate a bit. I said, I am not saying that if you react or not, you're already separate. You're simply believing that you are that you, overlooking the fact that you simply are. Now, life simply happens. A reaction happens or reaction doesn't happen. The reaction can be spontaneous or conditioned. Let me explain. If you were walking and a dog suddenly appears behind you and barks, the reaction is spontaneous. You don't have time to think. If, on the other hand, you're so conditioned to be an insecure person, you will find yourself reacting when someone says something, especially something that bothers you. However, when you're aware of what you truly are, the organic reaction when a dog suddenly appears could be part of the movement that takes place for the protection of the apparent individual. And I repeat, you don't have to do anything about it. Nevertheless, when there is the awareness of I am, the difference is that any conditioning that might have led you to react if someone says something to you that may bother you, you can now simply see it in the way that a dog can hear someone's word, but it has no psychological effect on the dog. Using the mirror analogy, the mirror does not feel anything regardless of what you put in front of it. Because the mirror is empty of conditioning, it simply is. In the same way, the dog is devoid of intellectual concept, it simply is. And even while simply being, if danger were to arise without needing to think about it, the dog would react since that is part of the role it is meant to play in this world of appearances. Therefore, even if we are playing whatever role we are meant to play, if we don't believe the content of our minds, the role unfolds naturally without suffering. And if something could endanger our apparent existence, the reaction will arise organically as part of that role. The one who's meant to play the role of a pilot will fly airplanes, and the one who is meant to play the role of artisan will make craft. But the two are essentially the same, and they will react equally to any kind of biological threat, but what will determine whether they react with suffering and judgment or not will be their conditioning. And all conditioning instantly falls away when you know what you are. As I've heard said before, if you cut a tree branch by branch, as you finish cutting one, another begins to grow simultaneously. But if you cut the tree down at the root, all the branches fall off at once. If the investigation of who I am is not established, new questions, branches, will arise, and no matter how many answers are shared, another question, more branches, will always emerge. Once the investigation of who I am is established, all the questions are seen as passing clouds as you rest in what I am. And what I am is this instant, unobscured by any thought that arises to the surface trying to get your attention. For the apparent individual, this is impossible to understand. But when the fear of letting go of the belief in the individual dissolves, this becomes the most obvious thing. Basically, in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that when you know who you are, then nothing really can touch you, so to speak. Yeah, on a physical level, it seems that, body can be harmed, somebody can harm the body or so. But again, within the world of appearance, it seems as though if we're going to be in danger, for example, there's a natural reaction to that. Some people may be different than others, but generally speaking, if the body's going to be in danger, there's a natural reaction to that. But when you know who you are, then you're sort of like the witness of the experience as the experience unfolds. And again, this is very paradoxical, because although I can say that when you know who you are, life unfolds, but the truth of the matter is that you are alive, and life is unfolding as it will. And the only issue here, again, when the question the person had is the guilt of, should I have done that? Did I do that? Could I have done better? No, life is unfolding. And all these questions fall by the wayside. I could not have done better because whatever was done, that's exactly what had to be done. I don't have to speculate also about, but what if I find myself in a situation in which I could do this or that? All of that is just pure speculation that leads to nowhere. Right now, the fact is that I am. Right now, you cannot negate your beingness. This is it. Life is. Now, notice how life is unfolding through this character called you. That is the simplicity of this. Whatever is being said is what's supposed to be said. Whatever is being done is exactly what's supposed to be done. That is exactly how life is unfolding. Very organically. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. That's why I'm making this video, because this is what's happening. I'm not choosing to make this video, even though it appears as if though that's the case. You see? So then in that case, it's very simple. I just notice. You see, I'm just sort of like, once again, the witness observing the unfolding of this experience, which I don't control it. Life lives itself, and the focus on these videos is not so much as to what to do or to question whether I reacted accordingly or correctly or incorrectly. No, here is to remember the fact that I am, so you can rest in beingness. Like the example of the dog may experience itself as alive, in a sense it says I'm alive, but not conceptually, and yet it doesn't filter any information that is being received. Words are just wah, 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 wah. It doesn't matter. It may associate a sound with a particular behavior because it may have to do that, but doesn't feel low self-esteem because he was a good dog or didn't achieve anything, or no, it just, the reaction is automatically, it's instinctive. Well, we can instinctively react because it's part of the built-in mechanism for this seeming body. But aside from that, everything else is psychological, is conceptual. And when we begin to know the fact that I am, then life is simply unfolding. And yes, we'll act accordingly based on the things we have learned, but they don't leave any trace of psychological suffering or anything. It's just basically functioning. If I want to go to the supermarket, well, there's a functioning that seems to be taking place, which again is not me who choose to go to the supermarket. A thought may arise, the idea of going to the supermarket may arise, you see, and then according to that idea, then if I'm supposed to go to the supermarket, then all the mechanisms are aligned so that I know how to stand up, balance myself, how to walk to the supermarket, or whatever the case may be. In other words, how to get there. There's a lot of things that have to take place in order for me to get to the supermarket. At one level, personally, I have to be able to know where I'm going. I have to be able to know how to get there. I have to be able to, if walking is the walking or getting on a bike or going into the car, I have to know a lot of things, you see, in order for me to get to the supermarket. But on top of that, a lot of things have to happen universally as well, working all together so that I can get to the supermarket. So it's not only my supposedly action, also when I get in the car and all the cars that are driving, making sure that they are following the rules, the street light at the right time, turning into green when it's supposed to, or there's a lot of things that could go wrong, if you want to use that term, in order for me to get to the supermarket. Somebody can run across a stop sign and hit me. So you see, so it's not just me going to the supermarket. Everything has to somehow align itself so that action takes place. And all of that is a happening. It has nothing to do with me making anything happen. Some may say I can control me going to the supermarket. Yeah, but I cannot control somebody who runs a red light, or I cannot control a telephone call of somebody saying you have a family member who really needs your attention. There's a lot of things we have no control. Actually, we have no control of anything. But bottom line, the issue here is that reactions take place according to who I think I am. But if I know the fact that I am, then reactions are seen and not judged. You see? Why did I say this? I don't know. That's what had to be said. But the mind try to go, what do I need to do to make sure that is not being done again? That's going to happen organically anyhow. The question is, who am I? Never losing sight of that. This is where these videos are all about. Otherwise, we can get caught in the mind, and the mind is going to sell you the next thing and the next thing, and it's going to try to fix something constantly to keep holding on to the sense of a separate entity. And the problem is that really there's no answers in this world of appearances, because every single answer that seems to appear erases another question, and there's always a new question. Why? Because the question is what the false sense of selves need to hold on to that belief. This is why eventually this points to silence. Silence is beingness. You see? Now you're simply being, like right now, beingness. There's no need to do, there's no need to say, and yet saying happens, doing happens, but you know that it's just part of expression, life expressing through the seeming character called quote-unquote me. That's why you're not going to come out here with new concepts or more answers or anything. If anything, hopefully what you come out of here is with the recognition that you are. And that's it. And then just watch the play unfold as it will. Feelings will come up, sensations will come up, thoughts will arise, situations will happen or seems to happen, and yet you remain as you are, you see. And now the issue of reaction is no longer a thing, it's just reacting happens or it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. The more you know who you are, which is love, if anything, because what you are in essence is the oneness, that which all of us are a part of. We can call it love. I'll guarantee you that whatever reaction comes through you will be in accordance to that knowing, and I'm pretty sure that you will not hurt yourself. Why? Because when you try to hurt other, you're really hurting yourself, because you and the other are one and the same. And once again, if the reaction happens organically to protect yourself, you may find yourself running away. You see? This is interesting because, for example, somebody was going after you. The ego's idea of dealing with that would be, let's fight back. Let's see who wins. And in the end, both of them get hurt. The smartest way would be, if I can run away, I run away. See, but in the society that we believe that we're this individual and who the toughest, the battle of the win, the one who's the toughest one wins, we're teaching to fight. You see? Yeah, and sometimes maybe that would be the natural reaction that has to take place. Again, but that will happen organically, automatically. But when you're resting in the beingness that you are, then just notice how life unfolds. If at sometimes you're supposed to fight, you fight. And if sometimes you're supposed to fly, you fly. But whether you fight or whether you fly, there's no residue behind of should I have done this, did I think this wrong. No, it's just basically what unfolded for the play in that moment. But let's not get caught up into all these kinds of details. Makes no sense. Just keep it simple. Right now, are you not being? That beingness is the peace that we so much are seeking, is the peace that you are. And in that beingness, just life unfolds. But there's no identification with the seeming character. You see? And that's why all these questions, eventually, they just fall by the wayside, because all the questions are for the seeming me. But the fact that you are has no questions, that have no answers. And yes, that which you are could be in which questions and answers may arise. But now we can live within the mystery. Life is unfolding, life is happening. Just watch the play unfold. I would say try not to control it, but again, it's a contradiction because you cannot control it anyway. So if anything, just notice that you are. See, you rest in this. And that's direct experiencing of the background substratum or the piece that you are, which is no background anyway, because there's no separation. But again, we have to use the language with its limitations, So right now, let's put it to the test. Come on, right now. Just be. Because you're being anyway, but anyway, right now, just be. See, this is it. And when there's no identification with the seeming me, even if I were to insult you, you're just being. Because these are words like the dog. You're a bad dog. You're a good dog. You're a nasty dog. You shouldn't have done this. The dog has no clue what you're talking about. All he hears wow, 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 wow. You can do that as well. You can learn to do that as well when you know who you are. The difference, you will be able to understand the words, but they don't have the sting. They don't, you're a bad person. You don't have to agree necessarily. You're a great person. You know what I'm saying? Because you're resting in beingness. And interestingly enough, even from that place of tranquility, somebody insults you, you may be able to turn that around. because you're not reflecting back to the person his own anger or her own anger. You see? I'll tell you a story and we shut this video. I'll close this video. Many years ago, I think I might have run a red light, or not a red light, but I think that, I don't know what happened. Maybe I cut somebody off. I don't know what the deal was. The bottom line is that this guy, he was not in a big truck, but I mean, smaller. He was following me all over the place, and I was going to the bank. And I remember that I was, wow, I guess he must be upset or something like that. So the bottom line is that I go to, I park in the parking lot of the bank, and the guy followed me all the way out there. As I get off the car and I'm going to the bank, I notice that he says to me, "Did you notice that you run that red light?" Or I don't know if it was a red light or a stop light or whatever they did. I don't know what the issue was, or maybe it might have been my mistake. But it was interesting because I was not in reactive mode. I was in a very, just open, and he said to me, "Did you notice that you run that red light or something?" Whatever the case may be. Well, if I would have reacted to him or insulted him, that would have fueled whatever his anger is, and God knows what might have happened. And I went up to him and said, "Sir, I truly apologize if I did that. I didn't realize that. I'm sorry, but I was very, I was honest. I was, just with that love." And the man, you could see how the guard dropped, just dropped. And you could see how the tone of his voice, everything changed. And he was like, "Oh, okay, well, just so you know, just be careful because he could hurt you." And I said, "Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I truly appreciate it." And the guy just left, and that's fine. You see? Well, back then I didn't know who I was the way we're speaking right now. But you see, when you know who you are that love anyway, and you will dismantle whatever. And if you're in front of somebody who's so blinded, well, maybe life may lead you to walk away and not say anything. So again, I don't know, but because you remain, you know the fact that you remain as that. And now all that you are is the love that is. And there's nothing else to say. So anyway, maybe I went a little long on this video, but I hope the message got across. And as always, may peace spread me in the mind so that love can become evident.